One thing I did forget in the previous video, you'll want to check your controllers. So your arms should be FK. If they're not, switch them to FK. So again, FK allows you to go one joint at a time and work your way down the hierarchy. So that's how I'm able to change or alter the shoulder and then go to the elbow and then to the wrist, as opposed to doing it strictly from the wrist. So again, do make sure your arms are FK. Your legs, and most legs, are always IK, which they should be. That's what allows you to grab the root and do this. So just make sure that's set up, but it should be with the legs. And then the other thing is it will be easier to animate if your character's spine is FK. So I think right now Max, his are set up for IK. And if you're not sure, just select the controller, and hopefully, if the person that rigged it was good at what they do, they actually named it if it was an IK controller. So here, if I grab his spine, it says IK spine. So I do want to change that, and I always forget where his is at. It might actually be in the root. Yeah. So you'll want to come in here and turn the FK spine on. And let me just select those controllers now. It doesn't look like anything happened because the controllers are identical, but if you look at the channel box here, it'll say FK. The difference is with FK, I can control a spine with rotation. With IK, it's done with translation, so you're actually moving it as opposed to rotating it. So again, I would just recommend having an FK spine. All right, so now let's look at setting up our blocking poses. So your blocking poses, anytime we're looking at our reference, it's always going to be the extremes in the performance. And so with the run and jump, or this particular animation that we're going for, it's going to be your contacts, the dip. So usually, you lower your body mass a little bit to anticipate the jump. So let's kind of go through here and look at these. So I'm going to start with the very first frame. So always start with the first frame. So this will be my first extreme on frame 0. And then my next one is just going to be the first contact. So whenever that heel hits the ground. And then my footage is a little weird. I actually shot this at 30 frames per second and then dropped it to 24. So on these frames where my contacts hit, they're a little blurry. So sometimes I kind of have to guess where those contacts are. So it's going to be somewhere around frame 20 for my first contact. So that'll be my second blocking pose. They're around on about 29, so this is where it gets blurry. That will be my next contact. And then again, we kind of anticipate the jump a little bit. So that'll be our second extreme. And then going through this, our next extreme is going to be the height of the arc. So wherever my center mass is the highest. So I'm just kind of looking at sort of the pelvic region for that. So that's going to be somewhere around probably frame 39. Your next extreme is, of course, going to be the landing. And again, think of this as sort of like a contact. I know not everyone lands the same, so you might land flat-footed. With mine, it's when the back of my heels hit the ground. So it's going to be somewhere right around frame 46 before they're completely flat to the ground. Then you'll have the recoil, which is when you're trying to catch yourself and working your way through the momentum you've gained from the impact. It's going to be the furthest forward your body moves. And again, always just kind of looking at center mass there. So it's probably going to be somewhere around 54, 53 if I had to guess. And then again, just the contacts and then the resting pose. So I'm going to document all that because again, we don't want to guess as we're animating. So I'm going to hit the Windows key on my keyboard and let's type in Notepad and open this up. And let's start recording these. So we're going to do 2 passes. I'll only go over the first pass today, and then on Friday we'll go over the second blocking pass. So let's see. I'm going to type in blocking pass 1, and I just always start at 0. So we'll get 0. Let's go through here and again look for those poses. So if you open this up in QuickTime, you can use the directional arrow keys on your keyboard. So if you press left or right, it'll go backwards or forwards 1 frame. So I'm just tapping the right arrow to go one frame at a time. Yeah, so I think that's going to be frame 20. So just as you're doing this, really look at what the body's doing. In those contacts, it really should be when the heel impacts the ground before the rest of the foot is completely flat to the ground. So this is my next contact, frame 20. So that's going to be my second extreme. Let's keep going here. And so looking for my next contact there on, this is where it gets tricky. I'm going to call it frame 29. And then we would just keep looking for contacts, but it looks like I'm getting ready for the actual jump itself. So I'm going to get partway through that motion there after my first contact, or that last contact rather. So I think probably frame 31. Again, this is sort of the dip as we prepare for the jump itself. And then let's look for the next one. So this next one's going to be the height of the arc. So again, just sort of looking at the center mass there. I'm thinking about when it reaches the highest point. So it's probably going to be somewhere around 39 or 40. I'm going to go ahead and call it 39. And then our next extreme will be the landing. And again, I'd prefer to get it before the feet are flat to the ground when we're back on the heels, first touching the ground. So 46. And then let's keep going forward here to frame. It's about frame 53 or 4. I'm going to call it 53. I think that's about when so I'm kind of rolling up on the balls of my feet. I think about frame 53 is as high up as those go, and then my, again, center mass is pretty forward. So again, just looking for that extreme there. Man, it's back when I had a full head of colored hair. So this gray stuff. And so this next extreme is going to be the next contact. So they're on 61. And then our next contact, '76. And then our final resting pose. I'm not going to animate all of this. I'm probably going to stop it at 88. So that right foot comes forward, and then my arms come down to my side, and I'm just going to call it there. So we'll do frame 88. I won't require that you guys do more than that last step after your landing. So if you do like walk off screen or whatever, you don't have to animate all of that. All right, so we've got all of our poses, and now it's going to be a matter of going back and forth between our footage and our sheet here, and then setting up these poses from the camera that we've established. So let's go ahead and start doing that. I'm going to come in here, we'll go to panels, perspective. Let's see, let's do camera. I probably should have named this camera. Let's do that real quick. And we'll start setting up these poses. I might actually do a split panel, kind of similar to what we did with the walk cycle. And then on this side, let's switch this to perspective. This is just so I can quickly grab these controllers. And I'm going to turn the ground off for now. Now, when we're setting up these poses, it's really important that you're always looking at the silhouette and making sure it reads well from your camera. So don't feel like you can't deviate from your reference. You can. It's just there for guidance, but we can alter it as needed if it makes for a better composition. And so I'm just going to tap in here, and I might tear this over here. Maybe. There we go. And let's go to frame 0 here and set up this pose. And so it's going to be a relaxed pose. This one's a pretty easy one to start with. Let's put this arm down. And you should be touching every single controller for every single pose. If you don't, it's going to end up looking really stiff. Once we add the in-betweens. All right, let's grab the spine. So I'm going to grab both of those and rotate them in Y. Just a little bit. Let's grab the root, and I'm going to pull that down just to have a slight bend in the knee. And again, as we're doing this, we do want to think about, or constantly think about how the body is moving, and also thinking about counter poses. So again, you know, if your left leg is going forward, your right arm should be going forward as well. So we get those kind of reversed or flipped. So again, we just want to think about all these things as we're doing this. Might take the shoulders down a little bit here. Some of this ends up being kind of subtle. I don't want my legs to be sort of twinning, so I might actually grab this one and pull it forward just a little bit. And that's really it for the first pose. If you want to subtly adjust your movements here, a lot of times what I like to do is grab the controller in question, and if I already know what axis I want to move it in, let's say I want to rotate this arm backwards or forwards, I will deliberately click on that axis. So in this case, I'm going to click on the Y, and then in the workspace here, if you middle mouse click and drag, it will rotate in that axis, and then if you hold control, it should move in a smaller increment. Or you can come up here and actually just select the axis and do the same thing. So I think that's going to be good. There on, I want this to start on frame 0. Let's come down here and key that in. And then I guess we determined how many frames I need. So here at the end, let's go ahead and set that to 88. And then on frame 0, let's select all those controllers and hit S to set a key. All right, so let's go to our next pose on 20. Now this is really important. As you scrub through this, always be mindful of which foot is planted, because it's going to be that foot that does not move from its position. It doesn't move forward, rather. So there on frame 20, it looks like my right leg stays planted. It does lift up on the ball, so we're going to have to do that, but it does not move forward. So let's go here to frame 20 to cue that up. And then I'm just going to start by moving the root forward. And then I'm going to grab this foot here, the one that's coming forward, and let's pull it forward, and then kind of start matching what my character's doing here. So it looks like we're back on that heel there, so let's come into there we go. Roll that back on the heel, and then the other leg is rolling up on the ball. And what I want to do is kind of look at the angularity here in the back of the knee and try to match that. And then I also want to try to gauge the distance here between the 2 feet. So it looks like this could probably come forward a little bit. And I could probably bring this forward and down. And once we've done that, we could probably bring this forward a little further. And then let's check this from our camera. This is one of those times where it would be really nice to have two screens. All right, and let's just see what's happening here. So it looks like that right arm going into frame 20 is going forwards. The left arm, which is behind my body, it looks like it's actually continuing backwards. My body's a little tilted there, and I'm looking down at the ground. So let's get that in there. So I'm going to tilt the root forward a little bit. Let's bend the spine forward. Let's see, this head's probably going to be a problem. Let's see. I do want to turn on the free orient on his head, so I'm going to come over here and right click and delete that key and turn the free orient off. And then we'll swing that arm forward. Now be really careful when you're making your poses. So I just want to pull this forward. Again, kind of similar to what I mentioned with the walk cycle. You know, we don't want to go in this direction because then our arm will do a crazy flip when we add our in-betweens. So let's pull that forward. Let's add a little bend to that elbow. We'll bring that wrist back. And this arm's swinging backwards. So I want to pull the arm or the wrist going forwards. So we're just thinking about overlap eventually. Let's build in our counter poses or our counterweight. So let me grab the hips. So the hips should favor the forward leading leg. So let's go ahead and tilt this into the left. The spine, let's grab that and tilt it opposing the left leg. So I'm going to tilt it in to the right. And same thing with the shoulders here. So let's grab this and pull it forward. Let's pull this one back. And then I want to check my silhouette. One quick way to check your silhouette from your camera, if you go into your camera and here under shading, as long as you don't have anything else in your scene, if you go to shading and, or I'm sorry, lighting, and go to use no lights, all you'll get is a flat shade of your character. And what we really want here is a strong, easy to read pose that stands out from the background. So we usually want to avoid things like losing the arms and hands. So we do want to see those a little bit. So if there are things we can do to push the silhouette further, you know, I would recommend doing so. I might be able to bring this arm forward a little bit here. Yeah, let's take this leg and bring it forward. It looks like I probably pull this root down a little bit too. All right, and once we get that, let's turn our lighting back on. And I did a no-no. So I reset up all those poses while still on frame 0, but I should be able to salvage this if I middle mouse click from 0 to 20 and then select those controllers and hit S to set a key. Yeah, cool. All right, so let's look for our next pose on 29. And again, always keep in mind which foot is now planted. That's the one that we will not move forwards. So we said it's 29. Let's go to frame 29. And so that right leg now comes forward for the next contact. I'm just going to start by taking my left foot and let's zero out that toe roll. It looks like that foot is coming up on the ball a little bit, so let's ball roll that up. And then it's going to look weird, but I'm going to leave the root where it's at for now. And let's grab the leg that should be swinging forwards, so the right leg, and let's just yank it forward. And again, I'm just kind of gauging the distance here. And let's zero out the ball roll. And this one should come up on the toe heel, like so. And then I can grab the root, pull it forward, and we can start matching this pose a little bit better. So I think this comes down. There's quite a bit of bend in that left leg. I come forward. I think we could build in some more distance now with these legs. So I'm going to grab the forward leading leg and just push it further. I'll grab the head and tilt it down a little bit. And I don't know what's going on with the arms. Let's check that. So they're actually both swinging forwards at this point. And I think outwards a little bit. This is why it's helpful to have two cameras, because it gives you a better idea of how far away your arms come from your body. And let's see. Again, always thinking about how we're shifting our weight. Let's grab this hip controller. I'm going to zero it out. And then let's rotate it forwards here with this leg. Same thing with the spines. Zero out the Y. Oh, I guess not the Y. Oh, it's an X. I'm going to rotate that in towards the opposing side. And let's bring this one. These are actually both coming forward now. Alright, once we've touched every controller, if you notice I haven't animated the fingers, that's not something I will require. And again, I did another no-no. I need to start moving to the frame first before I start setting the pose, but I'm going to middle mouse click from frame 20 to 29, and then let's select those and hit S to set a key. Let's see, what's the next pose? 31, so this should be my sort of anticipation. So again, just looking at the planted foot, it actually looks like both feet are still on the ground at this point. But this front one gets flattened. This one rolls up on the ball a lot more. And then my root gets pulled forward. And let's see. Continue to swing these. And let's check the silhouette on that. So I'm losing this arm here. So again, this is where we might push the pose from this camera. So again, just want to make sure I can still clearly and easily read the silhouette. That should be good. And then let's middle mouse click and drag to frame 31. Select all those keys or controllers and set a key. And then before you go, let me, because this part's the tricky part, the arc. So we've got an arc there on 46, or the peak of our jump. Was it 46? No, that's my landing, right? Yeah, 39. So we want to set this pose up. It doesn't actually move that far forward. You could exaggerate this if you want, but it is important that you have a nice sort of clean arc. And really I would track the sort of the center mass to create your arc. So they're on 39. I'm going to go to the side view. And to move your entire rig, all you need to do is select both feet controllers and the root. That's all you need to grab. So I'm going to shift select both feet controllers and then the root. And if I hit W and move these, the whole rig should come along with it. And again, I would sort of visualize an arc. You could use the grease pencil if you want. Let's see if it'll let me. You could draw in your own arc before you set this pose. But you do want something that's going to be a little symmetrical. You don't want something that goes like that. Well, maybe depending on how you jumped. But with my arc, I do want to be more of a symmetrical arc here. Ish. And then let's come back here. Let's grab both feet, the root, and pull this forward and yank it up. And then we just start matching this pose. All right, let's roll that down. And this other one, let's pull it forward. And it looks like it's going to be mostly flattened. So I'm going to take out that ball roll. And then I'm going to use the rotate here to rotate it down a little bit. Let's see, these arms swing way up. If you're ever afraid you're going to get into the gimbal lock territory, it's better to be safe than sorry. If you just go in and zero out all of these attributes first, and then just reset the position of the arm. It's usually what I do to help prevent myself from accidentally hitting gimbal. Oof. And he's got some weird arms. They might twist and contort a little bit here. There we go. And see, it looks like I'm looking ahead at the ground where I'm going to land. So let's get that built in there. Oh, I'm 2 minutes over. You guys can go. Sorry. For Friday, have your reference clipped out, and then I will finish blocking, and then you guys will start blocking Friday.